I am going to call to order the regular meeting of the Darien Police Commission, 2,419th meeting. First order of business is acceptance of the minutes of August 25th and September 9th. Motion to approve minutes of August 25th.
Second.
All those, since we have no discussion, all those in favor.
Aye.
Ditto for September 9th. Move to approve the minutes of September 9th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor.
Aye.
Chief correspondence.
A few
We do.
letters of correspondence. One was an email that was sent to the First Selectman's office that was sent over to us. This is for Officer Leslie Silver. She responded to 42 Lake Drive, and the resident came by the Selectman's office and expressed gratitude for thoughtfulness during our last storm. She was down there checking on the resident. Also, she was involved with the same family with the transition to a nursing home earlier in the summer, so her job well done. Since I'm proud of our police in general, I'm very appreciative of her actions. Thanks for giving us a moment to smile on the day for the residents suffering after the storm. So duly noted for Leslie Silva there. The second one also is a thank you note for Leslie Silva. She helped a resident with a internet eBay type scam where someone is, using an account to try to scam people out of eBay sales. So this was also posted, I guess, on a social media site, local social media site. The lady sent her a nice letter, which was forwarded to me. She sent me the same thank you. So Officer Silva, twice in a short period of time, duly noted. Fine work.
That's great.
Royal School and Henley School. I got 2 big envelopes full of hand-drawn and handwritten thank you notes for the Darien Police Department for opening the school and just thanking first responders. So they're in my office. I will give those to the commission to take a look at their leisure. They're quite jam-packed envelopes full of thank you notes from both of those schools. So if anyone's watching for Henley and Royal School, we appreciate teachers and the students taking the time to thank us. Thank you very much. Okay, and this one's going to take a couple minutes. I think most people here and then most people watching on TV knew we had an assault back 3 or 4 weeks ago involving an Uber driver. And I just like to take this opportunity to address this straight on and straightforward at a meeting, and for those folks watching on Channel 79. It does give us an opportunity to explain to folks why we do what we do and when we do it and why we do it. So there's a lot of chatter on social media sites about what should have been done, what wasn't done, what we did do, what we didn't do. So let me address that right now to the folks that are here. One thing that was posted was, the police should have charged this suspect with assault in the 2nd degree. Why did we charge the person with assault in the 3rd degree? Well, the police are part of the executive branch. We're not judicial and we're not legislative. We apply the law as written under statute and both the spirit and the letter of the law through case law. So assault in the 2nd degree. In order to charge someone with assault in the 2nd degree, the actor, the perpetrator, has to, with intent to cause serious physical injury, causes serious physical injury to that person. Statutorily, the injuries to the victim in this case did not meet the statute. And just so everyone's on the same page, because I do like to take the opportunity to educate our consumers. Serious physical injury is actually defined by statute. The police don't get to make the determination of whether or not you had serious physical injury or not. Serious physical injury, and this is quoted directly from the statute, means physical injury which creates a substantial risk of death or causes serious disfigurement, serious impairment of health, or serious loss or impairment of the function of any bodily organ. And if we don't have that, the police do not have the authority to just willy-nilly charge a felony when a felony doesn't exist under probable cause. Again, everyone watches TV shows about police work. What is probable cause? Probable cause is a fair probability that the actor committed the violation that we're charging him with. So when he does not or she does not commit that violation under statute, we do not have the authority to charge them with a felony where a felony doesn't exist. So I just thought I'd take that opportunity to clear that up.
I also want to commend you for also not only making that clear, but you also released a statement, I think, on social media after the incident to explain the process as well to the community. If anybody would like to see that.
I will reiterate that the police did this very expeditiously. We did it by the book. We got it done very quickly. The actor involved was properly charged. There was some social media chatter as well that if the shoe was on the other foot and the victim was a person, a white person rather than a person of color, that things would have been done differently. Not the case. We apply the law here under statute fairly, consistently, and under the proper color of law. So the folks there that posted on that, we realize in social media, they could be people posting from California or from overseas. They may not know what Connecticut law says. But I'm going to read a postcard that I got, and this is a postcard. It's not postmarked, but I'm going to read it just because I'd like to talk about it. It says, a white man assaulting a man of color who clearly believes he's going to be killed, and the white man is charged with a misdemeanor. Please ask yourself if this would have been the outcome if the roles had been reversed. This is why many people of color have no faith in equal justice. This is why many of all groups
Think.
here in Darien, I think is what it says, or think Darien is racist in a systemic way. Again, this is not postmarked. It could be written by anyone. But I'm here to tell you that this was not the case in that case, and it is not the case across the board with the Darien Police Department. We didn't like this event, this incident. It was troubling. It got a lot of exposure in the press, and it's not indicative of the fine men and women and young people in Darien for the most part. And I've said that before, and I will say it again. But when it does happen, we properly charge the offender. We send it down to court. Now, when the judicial branch takes control of it, and the ultimate decision comes out of judicial. So that's where we stand. It was properly conducted, and we did it quickly and thoroughly, and I think we did it as we usually do. Do we always get it right? No, we don't. But in this case, did we get it right? Yes, we did. This person, if you're watching on TV, and you're the person who wrote this postcard, I welcome you to come in and have a candid conversation with the chief of police at any time on why we do what we do and when we do it and why we don't do things sometimes. So I'm here. You can find me at 25 Hecker Avenue and have a conversation.
All the time. Okay. I'm glad we had the opportunity to go through that and all the other correspondence. Department activity, Captain?
Yes. This is going to be an activity report from the period of August 25th through September 16th. It's a little lengthy. I took some things out. I'm just kind of highlighting some of the bigger incidents. Unfortunately, we've been busy, but I also think it's important for our citizens to know how hard our patrol division works in taking these initial reports and handling these initial incidents, and then also subsequently how hard our detective division works in following up on these cases, some spanning over the last couple of years. On August 29th, a 32-year-old Darien woman was arrested by warrant for her role in a domestic violence incident that occurred on August 8th. On August 30th, a 34-year-old Stanford woman was arrested for DWI after she was found asleep in the driver's seat of her vehicle while on Birch Road at approximately 5:30 a.m. On September 1st, a 21-year-old Darien man was arrested by warrant for assault third degree, breach of peace, and criminal mischief for an altercation he had with an Uber driver on August 27th at 11:30 p.m. On September 4th, a 30-year-old Stanford man was arrested for DWI after he was found asleep in the driver's seat of his vehicle while on Hollow Tree Ridge Road at approximately 2 a.m. On September 4th, a 36-year-old Stanford man was arrested for DWI after the vehicle he was driving struck a utility pole on Hoyt Street at approximately 10 p.m. On September 8th, an elderly Darien resident fell victim to a phone scam and mailed several thousands of dollars in cash to a suspect who claimed the money had been mistakenly deposited to her account. The next day, the same suspect called the victim again, stating that more money was owed and instructed the victim to purchase several thousands of dollars in gift cards from Best Buy. The suspect then instructed the victim to provide the PIN numbers, to which the victim unfortunately complied with. On September 8th, a 42-year-old New Haven woman was arrested by warrant for larceny second, identity theft, and credit card fraud after she repeatedly used a credit card belonging to an elderly patient she cared for while working as a home healthcare aide in 2019. On September 10th, a 47-year-old man and an 18-year-old man from the Bronx, New York were arrested while attempting to steal used cooking oil from the rear of 1033 Post Road at approximately 5 a.m. The two suspects were observed while an officer was performing routine security checks of the commercial area. On September 15th, a 20-year-old Ansonia man was arrested by warrant in connection to overnight burglaries of unlocked cars in Norton Bay in March of this year. The suspect was identified by Darien detectives after a lengthy investigation involving evidence recovery in stolen vehicles, gas station and convenience store surveillance footage from various locations all over Fairfield County, and cell phone records. The suspect was charged with larceny, identity theft, illegal use of credit card, and conspiracy charges. The suspect remains in the custody of the Department of Corrections on a $100,000 bond. On September 15th, the 27-year-old Bridgeport man was arrested by warrant for committing an overnight burglary of a gas station on Norton Avenue in September of 2020. After a lengthy investigation, Darien Detective Greg Benedetto was able to identify the suspect through surveillance footage, evidence recovery, and collaboration with the Connecticut State Police, Norwalk, and Milford Police Departments. The suspect remains in custody of the Department of Corrections on a $120,000 bond. On September 15th, a 59-year-old Seymour man was arrested by warrant for DWI and numerous other motor vehicle charges for a serious injury accident he was involved in on Hollow Tree Ridge Road in May of this year. Due to the severity of the crash, the incident was investigated by the Darien Police Accident Investigation Team. The Darien road races this weekend will be staffed by several officers and traffic agents. This will involve temporary traffic delays in the Pear Tree Point, Long Neck Point, and Goodwives River Road area. On September 1st and 2nd, the town, as we all know, the town sustained extensive flood damage due to Storm Ida. Our officers responded to numerous storm-related calls for service over the span of 24 hours. Since August 25th, the Patrol Division and Traffic Division have conducted 80 traffic stops in numerous areas of town. Since August 25th, 8 overnight burglaries of unlocked vehicles occurred, 6 stolen vehicles that were left unlocked with the keys in it, and 3 attempts at vehicle burglary, but the vehicles were locked. And then this same time span, we had 18 motor vehicle accidents, 3 of which involved minor injuries.
That's a busy couple weeks.
Indeed.
Chief, you want to elaborate on any of it?
On the motor vehicle front, I mean, it's just not in the overnight hours now. Last Sunday, we have ring video of 2 perpetrators entering the driveway at 6:30. 6:30 is broad daylight on a Sunday morning. You see the car pull up, 2 guys jump out, they run up the driveway, they check the cars are locked, and they run back down the driveway, hop in the car, and off they go. 6:30 on a Sunday morning, which is not usually a prime time for criminal activity in Darien, but it's happening not just in the overnights, it's happening in the daylight as well. I've been saying it since the Eisenhower administration, but we have to lock our cars. Please, I beseech you once again, please lock your cars and don't leave your key fobs in there. It's just too much of an invitation to the folks that are coming from all over the tri-state area to come take our cars from Darien. So, as always, please help us help you lock your car.
I don't get it. Okay. Next is public comment. I see we have people, I don't know, were you guys wanting to make public comment or agenda?
Yes, you have an agenda item for the White Street crosswalk request.
Would you rather move it to
I'm happy to do it however you'd like.
Okay.
It's up to you, either way.
Well, why don't we put it at the agenda
Okay.
item? If you're all here for the same thing, I think it's the point where we put it. So we will go to old business if you guys will. Building issues update.
I am still working with Tony Campanella to get this wrapped up. A couple weekends ago, we had an issue with now one of the roof units. So Dave Sabini was working with Carrier to get that worked out. Still not at the end. There's still things that needs to be done with automated logic, but we're closer. And I guess for the summer, this summer was much better than last summer. So now we're getting into the cooler, the cooler time. So I think we're out of the woods as far as
And it's an
HVAC.
AC, not a heating, so we're not.
Right.
It's not all of a sudden we transfer the
Right,
problem
now
from.
it should be.
It's definitely an AC issue, okay. Now we can open windows.
But the air conditioning system runs year-round. So it's not like you have a window unit at home or your AC unit at home, you turn the heat on. This building is designed for that system to run year-round in conjunction with the heat. So it will be better, but it still may not be perfect.
No, we need to get it fixed, but at least we're,
There's a lot of moving parts, and right now Tony is working with automated logic just to kind of wrap it up.
On another unrelated but building matter, Aquarian Water Company was here. They are required yearly to inspect our backflow preventer for potable water coming into the building. The 11-year-old backflow preventer for our potable water is rotted out. $888 for the parts that I just paid the bill for. And at some point, either in the evening hours or a weekend hour, our maintenance personnel and DPW will have to shut down the water to the building for a period of hours to replace that backflow preventer.
exciting. I'm sorry to say that COVID update has made it back onto the agenda.
And we're waiting, like most employers with 100 employees or more, to find out exactly how this is going to roll out nationally as far as testing and/or vaccination provability. So we got the last email, I believe, today from HR that they don't believe they're going to have anything firm to put out to employees till October 1st. So we're kind of in a holding pattern until then.
But right now, we're masked inside the building and
Masks
you
when
can't
you're-
be social distance or...
Masks when you're inside, moving around the building. You can be unmasked if you can maintain social distance, which we're still taking the reasonable man and woman approach of 2 arm lengths is about 6 feet. So that's what we're continuing on.
Okay.
We have no COVID positivity in our ranks now, which is good, and we've got to keep it that way.
Well, every week is a new week, so keep thinking we're at the end, but we're somehow not. Okay, any other old business? New business. Discussion on Dago Law Group being retained for accreditation-related review of our general orders.
Yeah, Lieutenant White, does our accreditation. He couldn't be here for the meeting today. We're hoping he could be here. So just as a general opening discussion item, Dago Law Group does a large portion of the accreditation-related work in Connecticut. They do our general orders are done through Power DMS, which the Dago Law Group is affiliated with. But in this case, the Dago Law Group will take our general orders, and for a fee that's about $25,000, they will go through our entire general order manual, which is, I don't know how many hundreds of pages. They are going, and if we retain their services, they go through the general orders to make sure that they are going to be wholly compliant with Tier 3 accreditation in the state of Connecticut, which is coming in the next 2 years.
Right, this is a result of new legislation. We haven't had to spend this.
Accountability bill, yes, they jumped on board here to offer this service to municipalities. They have a good background in it, and they don't have to reinvent the wheel, because they're looking at a lot of these things that would come under these accreditation standards, and they probably already done it for another organization. But what they do is they ensure that your policies are going to be compliant with that accreditation.
Can you just, so for our last accreditation, we did not have to do this, so this This is new?
Right, we're Tier 2 accredited. There's between 100 and 200 additional standards that we're going to be required to meet
By 20,
25.
by 2025. So this is just to put it on the radar. Then I'm getting the commission a packet that fully explains that the services that they offer. And in the grand scheme of things, although it's not an insignificant amount of money, staff time to do that same thing may certainly exceed, that figure to try to get this done.
Is this something that you're looking to do for the next fiscal year, or is this 2 years down the road? What are your thoughts there? We have to be well prepared. Prepared well in advance, obviously, but
Accreditation comes up in the spring, so Lieutenant White is going to see that through, and then...
for the Tier 2, which
Right.
is
And then after that, we have to begin the process of
Right
getting
away.
prepared.
figuring out what Tier 3.
It's a heavy lift going to Tier
Yeah.
3.
So this is new. This is not something that we do, and we're just doing it a different way, or this is new mandate that will be Tier 3 that was not present in Tier 2. So we have not done this
It
before.
may be the most expeditious way to get this done. And it may be the most cost-effective way to get this done.
historically, we haven't had to
We
spend
haven't had to do this.
$25,000.
No.
All right, so as a result of new legislation, we have to do that, number one. Number two, we could potentially need another headcount at some point as well,
Yeah,
which we can discuss at another time,
Yeah.
but correct?
And we'll have to go through the whole Tier 3
It's
thing.
more than a full-time equivalent to get that done.
I just want everybody to know what the impact of the legislation is, that's all.
Most police departments have an officer that's dedicated solely to
Right.
accreditation. Bigger departments have multiple people that work on it full-time.
Well, if Tier 3, if this is just one example of the difference between Tier 2 and Tier 3, I mean, it's clear that it's a massive change. And I mean, if someone has got to literally go through our entire general orders and make sure, I mean, that's just right there. And I assume at some point we will document all of the things that are new and not necessarily improved from Tier 2 to Tier 3, so we start to quantify it. And but I assume that's just one of the fun facts of Tier 3.
Right after we achieve accreditation for Tier 2 in the early spring, we have to immediately start with Tier
Okay.
3 to make sure that we're done by, that we have it done when it's need to be done.
Yep.
Something we've never been down this road before. But we realize that it's going to be a little bit of a heavy lift to get this done, to ensure that we get it done in the time frame that it's required.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Getting your arms around it just in general is a task. Okay, we don't need to act or do anything.
No, I will take a packet from the Data Law Group, and I think we'll ask Lieutenant White to attend the next meeting so that he can expound and expand on it a little bit more, because he's had the conversations with them ongoing. And I think we may find that it is the most economical way to achieve what we're looking to achieve.
Is it possible to give him time, or somebody, when we have this discussion, not just on this issue, but if somebody could lay out Tier 2 versus Tier 3, and so we start to get a kind of comprehensive look at what this actually means?
I am quite certain that Lieutenant White can provide the commission with a side-by-side document
Yeah.
comparison of
Thank you.
what it looks like.
I think that would be helpful, and I mean, I assume you're chatting with other chiefs and trying to figure out how everyone's meeting this. I mean,
Yeah,
the only, I mean, it's everybody.
We have Fairfield County agencies, that are not accredited at all to any standard. They're starting from nothing. Because accreditation, for those who maybe are watching on TV or here, up until the police accountability passed in 2020, accreditation was not required for any police department. It just wasn't. You did get a substantial benefit in liability avoidance, and our insurance carrier probably insured the town for a little bit less of a premium because you're accredited and you're meeting professional standards and you're ongoingly documenting that you are meeting these standards every 3-year cycle. But until the police accountability bill came along, accreditation was not required. So there's some police departments that are starting with absolutely nothing. And they're going to have to go from 0 to 60 pretty quick to meet the mandate, even though it's 3 years away.
I know, hear you loud and clear. Okay. traffic issues, Hoyt Street, crosswalk, sidewalks. You guys said you were here for that. Do you want to?
Can I give you a couple pieces of paper that I'm going to refer to while I'm talking?
Absolutely.
So that you have those?
No, totally helpful.
I apologize, I don't have copies for everyone.
No, that's all right.
One of you.
Brent and I can share, and then,
And are you okay with me, here, I'll give you this too. It's really just this corner that we're talking about that might help you conceptually. Are you okay with me taking my map?
yes.
If you see on my phone, I may bring up a map. I'm not doing text or anything.
I printed it because I thought it might help you just to
No.
Thank you.
physically see it, so.
Yeah, like we.
Going back to about 2000, my name's Holly Schultz, I live at 543 Hoyt Street. And going back to about 2004, pre-me even getting involved, we've had neighbors in our area, which is the northwest-most corner of Darien, sort of right where we border Woodway Country Club in Stamford and Talmadge Hill train station and the road and the Merritt Parkway, exit 36 up by New Canaan. And in that neighborhood, we're within the half-mile sort of hot spot zone of the Talmadge Hill train station, which means lots of people are pedestrians walking to and from the train station. We also get people just walking around to their neighbor's house or walking, especially during COVID, to get exercise at lunchtime because people are working from home now. But going back to 2004, we've had complaints about the lack of sidewalk, I think partly because there's a lack of shoulder on that road, and it tends to be fairly fast because it's a cut through between I-95 and the Merritt. But at this point, understanding that the sidewalks is dependent upon sort of the town board of selectmen and a commitment to pay for that, since we've been through that process with all of the different departments, the state has engineered drawings going back to I can't remember the exact year, I think it's 2010. We got the state to engineer sidewalks and crosswalks for that area. So those drawings are sitting around. I have a set at home if you need them. They did them in AutoCAD, they engineered it, and basically said if the town can pay for this, you're welcome to do the install. So we know that's been put sort of on hold and at the discretion of there being a desire at town hall to proceed with that. But our request as neighbors, especially with a significant number of houses having turned over here in the last handful of years with new families, with a lot of new kids and new commuters, because that's why a lot of people buy in that corner of town is to take use of the train, is that we get at least the crosswalks that were part of that design painted, and if necessary, the ADA compliant landings basically on either side of the road that might be necessary to paint those installed so that we could have legitimate crossing. Oftentimes you'll find that the pedestrians who are walking there with the lovely speeding traffic, it's a 30-mile-per-hour zone, but we've already done traffic studies in the past and shown that it easily averages at 45 or more. Our people aren't even crossing to walk facing traffic, which we all know is the legal and safe way to watch. I've noticed it a lot lately because it's actually quite scary to cross the road, and it can be difficult because it's a really curvy stretch of road, as you can see on there. The packet I handed you goes back to 2015. The RTM with the Board of Selectmen got a Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee formed, which I was appointed to and was part of that group. But we identified all these hot spots around town, this being one of them. It was schools, parks, train stations, you know. And we identified basic improvements around everything from signage to lighting to crosswalks to sidewalks that could help improve pedestrian safety. And this happens to be one of those hot spots. And so I gave you the overview packet of that final report. It's online, it's on the town website still. And I gave you the sub-packet that was specific just to the Talmadge Hill area so that you have that to reference. But one of the things I wanted to point out, because we've been down this road before, is, you know, we've had many conversations about it, but I've heard the response that, well, we can't paint crosswalks to nowhere. And I think the one thing I'd like to point out today, and this is in response and why we're surfacing this again, is we have a lot of new neighbors and they're all asking the same questions, which is why don't we have this? Why can't we improve this and make it safer? When you look at 2 miles running north from the Darien-New Canaan border on Route 106, which is what we're talking about, Hoyt Street is Route 106, it becomes Old Stamford Road in New Canaan. If you just drive north, literally, from Behringer Road, which is the town line, and go north, in 2 miles up, which you dead end at South Avenue in New Canaan, which is 124, you pass 6 crosswalks, 6. 3 of the 6 have pedestrian controls where you can press a button to change the light. And the first one, or the second one you come to at Jolliffe Mill Road actually has the legal ADA platforms built on either side. There is no sidewalk that those platforms connect to, but people are walking. We have pedestrians, whether we like it or not, whether we want sidewalks to nowhere or not, we have pedestrians on this road. It's incredibly unsafe. There's no shoulder, there's nowhere for them to go. So at the bare minimum, it would be nice to have these crosswalks so that folks can walk facing traffic and be as safe as feasible in this zone. So having surveyed that there are those 6, and all but one of them are sidewalks to nowhere, or are crosswalks to nowhere, at least on one side, if not 2 sides. When you look at this in Darien, and I gave you these 2 maps as part of that packet, what we're talking about adding is these 4 that were in that Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee pack. The recommendations that were published by that committee were to put in these 4 crosswalks up here in this half-mile zone of the train station to help folks get back and forth on the road safely to and from these sort of subdivision, no outlet neighborhoods, basically, that butt into White Street, Route 106. If you go 2 miles from down into Darien, from Behringer Road south, right, the first 2 miles on Route 106 in Darien, there are actually 0 crosswalks in that entire 2-mile stretch, where on the north side in New Canaan, there's 6. And you have to go 2.2 miles out and 2.4 miles, you find one at Briarbrae Road and Miller Road. Both have one because there is a sidewalk there that leads to Holmes School. And those do have a sidewalk on one side, but on the other side, they are sidewalks to nowhere. They are exactly what we're talking about building up north, which is a sidewalk that butts into a cul-de-sac street, right? That has a lot of homes on it and people who are trying to cross the street to walk to get elsewhere. They don't even have the ADA required landings. They literally go and look. I looked yesterday again, it's still there. They just paint. It goes up to the end, and there's pictures of that in that report from the guy who did the homeschool area. He made a point of noting that those needed to be repaired. That was back in 2015. And the culmination of that report, as you'll read on the first page, was simply asking the town to come up with a 5-year plan. As an architect, I would say, whatever, 10-year plan, 15-year plan, it's been 15 years now, right? We've been asking for this. Any kind of plan to show incremental improvement would have been helpful. And we feel like that doesn't exist. So we're asking once again if something could be done to paint these, put bollard signs in the middle of them that say, the state law is to, slow for pedestrians in the crosswalk, or slow 30 miles per hour, or whatever is deemed appropriate by the, what the police department rules are and how the town likes to operate. But the state is not standing in the way of this. We've been around and around, we've been to the state, they've essentially put their hands up, said, you're fine to do this as long as the town maintains it, meets state requirements, but then pays for it and maintains it to do the implementation. And that, as you'll see on that map, is what's happened in New Canaan, is they, as part of their pedestrian safety improvements over the past 15 years, have painted these themselves and maintained them themselves and put the signs. They actually have the bollard signs out in the middle. If you drive up there through in the summer, you'll pass at least 4 or 5 of them along the way that tell people to slow for anybody who's in the crosswalk. And it actually makes a big difference. It makes it feel like a neighborhood, which it is, and it makes drivers a little more alert to the fact that somebody could be walking there. So that's the request.
I don't have, unfortunately, we're sharing the one packet.
Did the state specifically say that the bollards are legal to put out in the middle of the road as well? For the town of New Canaan to put them out?
I don't have anything, and I have records going back since I started on this in 2005. I don't personally have anything in writing without going back and digging into some of the direct communications with them. But I know that those are legal. What I do know is that they tend to be sort of neighbor managed, right? Like as somebody who lives at one of those crosswalk areas, and we have other people like that sitting here behind me who are neighbors who have their own personal stories about why this is important to them. But we've all, as a neighborhood, been willing to like take up a fund to buy the stupid things and put them out there and have the person who lives closest to it put it in their garage in the winter, right? When it's not appropriate to have it there because we've got big state plows going down the road and you can't, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to have that there. I just think there's a lot of creative solutions with paint and signage that can improve these kinds of situations on, a tight budget, especially in a short-term way when you're trying to plan for something longer term. And that's really what we're asking for, is that we do something that would help improve the situation for the short term. So understanding that something more permanent and sort of a bigger, better design could be a very long-term conversation.
No, I appreciate all of what you just said and all of this. Personally, I can't weigh in because I'm just getting this right now. I don't know if you guys want to weigh in, or we can table this until the next meeting. I want to drive it. I want to kick the tires on everything. Not that I can't follow it, but I would like to read all this stuff if you don't mind.
So, this has been, like, as we said here, has been going on for quite some time.
Thanks.
I would recommend to the commission that you direct the chief to craft a letter to the DOT to get a DOT representative here at our Legal Traffic Authority meeting for the police commission. Because I've worked with the DOT now for 25 years, and the DOT does not always have the same message to residents that they have to the Legal Traffic Authority.
That's true.
And, when we installed the crosswalk back, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, there was an influx of kids that were living on one of those streets, whether it was Miller Road, Edmond, Briar Bray, I'm not sure which one it was. And the Legal Traffic Authority at the time, and it was not any of the commissioners that were here now, and nor was I the chief or even the captain then, was not really a firm proponent of putting in that crosswalk. But the DOT would not take the request directly from a resident. So they went up to the DOT, the Legal Traffic Authority, saying, if the DOT thinks this is an appropriate place for a crosswalk, we're not going to stand in your way. Go ahead and put it in, right? And the DOT, and I will have to find the correspondence, I know I have it, and I'm going to have to dig through my files. The DOT told me, as clear as I'm sitting here today, this is the last crosswalk we are going to install on Hoyt Street. And I will get that letter, and I will bring that letter to the Legal Traffic Authority. So unless something has happened with the DOT in that intervening time, I think we need someone from the DOT. We'll craft the questions to the DOT of whether something has changed.
Can I have sent this to the DOT. They have an online request form, right, for things that are wrong on the state road. And since we live on a state road, I've had to use that a number of times over the years. And it's very similar to the citizen request form that's on the Darien Town website, where you put in things for public works. And because we've been around and around this about 4 times over the last 15 years, I continue to, whenever this bubbles up in the neighborhood, I mean, last time Rosemary was asking, then it was another new neighbor. So I'll post it there again, and I'll say, hey, can we revisit this? Can we get dynamic speed signs, which they've also just installed in New Canaan up in that 2-mile stretch. There's nice permanent dynamic speed signs that say what the speed limit is and how fast you're going, because those help too. And you guys have been very helpful putting those up periodically when I call and ask to have that done by the police department. But they last a week or 2 and then they have to pull them and put them elsewhere. So even an investment in that would be helpful.
I am certainly not adverse to putting in permanently mounted dynamic speed signs on over Hoyt Street.
But the state has, in response to my most recent posting, because that's always where I start, because it's a state road, is they said, we want you to go to the police commission. They gave me the name of whoever here is taking your old job, and
it wasn't by choice.
Yeah, and sent me there and said, this is the person you need to follow up with, and that's when the police commission came up. And this is all sort of deja vu, because this is essentially the exact same process and discussion that was had back in 2005 when we started calling the town and the public works and the police department and asking, who do we talk to, what do we do, what's the process? And as you'll see in that PIAC report back from 2015, that was part of the recommendation of that committee, was we just need to actually put somebody in charge of this in this town and put a process in place on paper that makes it clear how these things are going to be handled, because it's no more you than me, we do end up sort of going in these circles, especially when it's a state road, and we don't really have a clear, clean process. And when we went back and forth, the state has repeatedly said to me, because I've put this in at least 3 times in the last few years, every time I get a break from work, and they always say...
Do they respond to you in writing? I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yes, I have everything. If you want to see anything from 2005 to now, I have
I might, but...
that are probably much more in-depth than you would ever want
Well,
to
we
see.
certainly have not, since I've been sitting in this chair, we have not addressed it with the state. So let's see if we can tie this up, and so you're going to,
Because they're sending
who's
us
on
back.
first, so.
They're sending us back to the town and saying, we've been over this, we've designed it, we've, said if the town wants to do this and maintain it and paint these things and do, as long
No, I
as
got
they're
it.
doing them to the legal code of, ADA and everything, that they will approve.
Look,
Can you-
let us take the ball and see what we get back from them, if it's the same, if it's different, but as an official,
I do want to manage expectations here. I do, as I sit here today, I do not believe the state DOT will allow crosswalks to be installed on Bridge Street unless there is a sidewalk system on at least one side. That is the truth of the matter. I've been dealing with the DOT for over 25 years. One project that they agreed to install took me 8 years to actually get it installed. We've been waiting for new crosswalks for fully protected crosswalks here by the library and at Norton Avenue by St. John's Church, what's called an exclusive pedestrian phase. All new equipment, that you push the button, it goes red for all locations, and then somebody crosses. It's been over 2 years, and that has not yet been installed. So I have good friends at the DOT. The DOT moves at glacial speed.
And we do note the examples that you gave in your cane as well. That's
It's been 15 years, so I feel
Yeah.
like we've been patient and we've asked multiple different ways. We're just asking for a creative solution. That's all we'd like.
And one question for you. Sometimes when you ask for something, you get what you want. Sometimes you get nothing. Sometimes, you have to prioritize. In terms of these 4 crosswalks that you're requesting, is there a priority for Behringer or Woodway entry or Leeds, or are they all of equal importance, would you suggest? Probably the latter, but
I
if you had to
would say,
prioritize
you said
one.
we can do 3, we can't do 4. I would
Yeah.
say Leeds is probably the least because it has the fewest homes on it. It's a very short
Okay.
street with less traffic and fewer people, because that's the furthest out, walk from there, whereas quite a few people walk daily from Country Club, Behringer, and all summer long watching I think back when we started this, we had surveyed with somebody at Woodway Country Club gave us a figure. It's in the paperwork. It was like 36 of their staff use the train station to get to work, and my sons happen to work over there now. They're old enough, and so I see the caddies come in early in the morning when I'm headed to the dog park. They walk to and from that station.
That was my
every day.
first job. I walked to the
Yeah.
Woodway Country Club every day. I was 12 years old.
oh, wow.
And they're walking,
You're not allowed to work at
often
12.
not facing traffic because they're trying to just walk on the side they're going to. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's not conducive. There's people walking, like that's not going to stop. They're walking, they're riding bikes, they're even pushing strollers and stuff during COVID, which is terrifying. But walking dogs now, even some of the new people. So it's more about what can we put in place to help encourage them to do it as safely as possible.
And I add one thing. I'm Alexandra Taylor, and I'm at 4 Behringer Road, so my house is actually the absolute last house in Darien on the north side. So my whole block during non-COVID times do commute to New York City. Most of them do walk, some are walking now. This is the scariest time of year. So if there's something that you can do this time of year, the temporary, speeds or whatever, at 4:30, it's pitch black. I actually commute to New York City. I walk myself. I don't walk as much now, but now that everyone has an iPhone, you have a flashlight. But there are days I used to hit the Blackberry every 5 feet so that there would be a light going on, walking. It's really scary, and you put people's lives in danger, and I think that's the thing that we continually forget. Yes, I would love my kids to ride their bike. I would love my kids to be able to walk to their friend's house, even to Holly's house. But it happens, and this time of year it's the hardest time. So anything you can do, even if it's the deep fall where it's pitch black at 4:30, and people are trying to commute, that's the part that makes me the most nervous.
I think also,
And driving myself makes me nervous.
I think also if we talked about as neighbors is who's the person who's going to be getting hit that will get attention. And it will be my husband, who also walks to and from, and I got so nervous when it turned dark. I packed up my kids in the car, because we only had one car when we first moved here, and drove to the train station because I said, you can't be the person that draws attention to this. I need you. So I think it's you know, I so appreciate Holly being a champion for all of us and how much work she's put in.
Can I just clarify, because it seemed, now, this, I was focusing seriously on crosswalks, but now I'm hearing speed.
Well, you're saying we're not gonna get crosswalks.
No, I'm gonna.
Speed tomorrow, do speed tomorrow. I mean, we.
Okay, no, I'm just.
What do you mean by speed? I don't...
Whatever, I don't know what they're called.
The dynamic speed signs that you put up periodically, you actually have mounts on two of that's because we pushed that back when this came up, and it was one of the, temporary measures. And they only go up though when, basically me, because I live at that corner where all the accidents happen, which I've pulled the accident reports, right on our curve where the people come flying around the curve when people are turning left into Woodway Country Club is like a hot spot for accidents. I hear them all the time, you have them on file. And so that's the spot where I'd ask to put up the dynamic speed signs because it does make a difference. Like when people are flying through there and they're seeing 47 flash up on the screen, it's not great because it doesn't actually have the speed limit above it, so they have no idea what the speed limit is. But if we could get the kind that show the speed limit and how fast they're going, it does make a difference.
All right, so I just wanted to be clear that we need to look at the history of crosswalks and figure out DOT and dig a north file. And then speed is another.
Right.
I'm just saying if there's a short-term fix for the next 3 months and we can do that, that would be
In
wonderful.
terms of next steps, I'm sure we can include that in our rotation. I don't think that would probably be an issue. And then number two, we'll have a conversation with DOT and pick that up with them
We did
again.
recently over the summer ask them for permanent ones. We've asked you guys for that too. And the guy from the DOT that time, again, if you want to see any of this, happy to forward it, said, actually, that's a really good idea. We should probably put that in. We should probably have permanent ones there.
Yep.
So even getting you guys, instead of just us, to ask the DOT to put the permanent dynamic speed signs in that area would be a big improvement. But
Okay.
The DOT will not put those permanently mounted dynamic speed signs in on their dime. They are glad for us to put them in under an encroachment permit on the town's dime.
right, and they kind of said the same thing last time about the
We have
crosswalks
installed,
and
I
everything
think,
else.
4 pairs of those so far.
Yep, they're
There's
up,
one
so-
at the other end of Hoyt Street in the school zone. I am certainly not opposed to seeking funds to put permanently mounted dynamic speed signs on the upper.
So I think we have an action plan in terms of next steps, and then just give us a little time to have those conversations and we communicate back with you.
And my last recommendation is Tiger Man in New Canaan, who's been doing this since I started harping about it, has been very successful, sort of wheedling, I guess, like finding a way to work with the DOT to get done what they wanted to do with their pedestrian safety initiatives throughout New Canaan. And if you've been over there, you've seen they put in lots of sidewalks during these 15 years and improved with signage and crosswalks and everything else. And I think, so he's been doing it. So I even in the past had made a point of calling him and asking how he got things done to make recommendations for Darien. Because it is possible, we just seem to not have had the same sort of organization and will around it that they did. And I do think it's going to take being more strategic to actually get it done.
All right, well, let us, since it's just landed on my radar, let us do our little homework. We will 2 paths, crosswalks and speed mitigation, and we'll get back to you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
You don't have to leave, we got a lot more.
I just want to make sure, I have 3 pieces, there was another, I just want to have a whole packet of what she gave us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just keep it
Take
all
care.
together and then we can make copies for everybody. Right? We only got those 4 things. I just want to make sure I have a copy of everything. Okay, Operation Clear Track.
Yes, so the patrol, next week is National Rail Safety Week. And on Tuesday, September 21st, with the rain date being the following day, we are going to be participating, the Patrol Division is going to be participating in Operation Clear Track, which is basically monitoring and taking enforcement actions at our 2 railroad crossings in town, one being on Hoyt Street, one being on Camp Avenue. We've participated in this several times in the past. Last year they didn't have it, they had some type of a virtual program. But this year, we're going to assign patrol officers for periods of hour and a half to 3 hours at the different crossings, and they're going to issue verbal or written warnings or citations where appropriate. And then we also have some informational cards to hand out to anybody who might be pedestrians in the area, and also to those drivers who may have slipped up. But we don't typically, I mean, over the course of the history of the Darien Police Department, there's been some terrible tragedies at those two crossings. Knock on wood, we haven't had much in my career, but we believe they operate well. You know, we do get an occasional stuck, what do you call it, the crossbar that comes? And we have to send staff up there and monitor it until it's fixed and appropriately working again. But we do notice that in those certain circumstances, whether it was an electrical issue or what, the people will still try and scoot around them and through them. So it's a very dangerous situation, and we believe that participating in this awareness campaign maybe could save a tragedy or prevent a tragedy.
Metro North Police typically don't respond when it doesn't come down.
They
It's
do.
more local, or you just do terror?
Sometimes they get coming from a distance, so.
Right.
Again, as usual, I'm dating myself, but when I started, they were protected only by crosswalk signage, and I'm not even sure if there was warning lights.
So the horses went through quick, though, right?
So, there was no cantilever arms on either one of those crossings, and I've been at fatalities at both of those crossings since the upgrades were done with the increase in lighting and the cantilever arms. If you're on that track when a train is coming, you have seriously had a misjudgment of what you can do and what you shouldn't do. So anybody who's trying to get around those arms is certainly taking their life in their hands.
I will date myself. There were no arms, and one of my friends in high school got, luckily not a tragic end, but the back end of the car got taken off.
Is this a new campaign, or they've been doing this for years?
At least the last 5 years, I'd say, maybe longer.
Okay, well, worthwhile safety campaign, so I'm glad we're participating. Step increases, Lieutenant Adema and Sergeant Palmieri.
Both Lieutenant Adema and Sergeant Palmieri have completed their 1-year time and grade. I certainly heartily recommend to the Police Commission that they get their merit step increase to second step at their appropriate rank.
I concur. I assume you need a motion, Jan? I move that we approve the step increases for both Lieutenant Adema and Sergeant Palmieri.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Gift from the Margaret Van Munching Trust.
I did receive a check in the amount of $1,000 from the Margaret Van Munching Foundation, I believe it is, for the Darien Police Department, for the gift fund. I heartily again recommend to the Police Commission that we accept that gift with gratitude, and I will craft a letter to the Margaret Van Munching Trust thanking her for that.
And you need a motion to accept it?
We did.
I am going to move that we graciously accept with hearty thanks the gift from the Margaret Van Munching Trust for $1,000.
Yeah, big thanks. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The false alarm account, request for laptops for the chief and the 2 captains.
Yeah, we're now looking to spend a little bit of money. You know, for the last 2 years of COVID, captains and I have been doing a good amount of work from our office or other remote locations. We're currently using Lenovo laptops that are at least 8 years old, and they were bequeathed to us from the Board of Ed stock at some point. So I did ask our IT sergeant, and I asked Commissioner Cunningham, who was also very IT and computer savvy, if they could spec us out some laptops that we would ensure that they would be working for us now and for the foreseeable future. And I'd like to get at least 5 or 6 or 7 years, well, maybe not me, but somebody might get 5 or 6 or 7 years out of a laptop. They spec'd out something that it's very nice. They're Microsoft Surface Pros. They have a big hard drive, they have a lot of RAM, but we're looking to be able to open up this device, whether we're in Trumbull or whether we're in Norwalk or whether we're sitting in the EOC in here, and work like we're working at our desk in our office. So the technology of this type, we're not looking to go on the cheap. It doesn't come cheap. These laptops are it's kind of like a tablet laptop combination, and they're coming in at about $1,800 a unit. We do have funds available in the alarm fund. We do need some kind of laptops. I defer to the experts. What I know about a laptop, it sits on your lap and you open it up. So these are the devices that both our police commissioner and our IT sergeant are saying the ones that we can get, and they should last us at least for the next 5 years of cutting-edge technology of computers.
Well, I don't know anything about IT, but I do know two things. 8-year-old hardware is really old, so that I know. And I find no reason, even though $1,800 is a sum of money, to cheap out and get $1,300 ones that are not effective is just throwing good money after bad and does not solve whatever problem. So I am perfectly happy and can't believe, quite frankly, that you have waited 8 years to ask us for.
No, we haven't had them for 8 years, but they were probably 6 years old when we got them. So.
You guys are available and work 24/7, so I think it's great.
I'm perfectly comfortable.
It's a
That
no-brainer.
seems like a good use of the alarm fund. So
Need a motion.
I will make a motion that I'm going to say up to $6,000 for 3 laptops for the chief and the captains, based on the recommendation of our IT, and Commissioner Cunningham will oversee.
And as always, I will lean on the vendor as hard as I can to get them for as low a price as we can. We may be able to do a little bit of arm twisting to get the price down a little bit.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion, anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Adjournment, but Jan's giving us fancy calendars. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is the 7th. That, if we think we need it, that is fine with me. We can move to the 21st. We don't have Kevin, so we'll have to check with him anyway, but
I'm available both dates, so whatever you want to do.
I'm available both days.
Do we have enough on our agenda in 2 weeks? Or should we, I guess, Jan, we can schedule it in 2 weeks and always cancel it?
Absolutely.
Before we do is the group sitting here also available on the 21st?
I am.
You are too.
Yes.
So let's check with Kevin. Let's say the 7th, Jan, with the full knowledge that if we do not have a full agenda, we are all available for the 21st. Okay?
Yep.
All right. We are adjourned.